Hi, I'm Nicole Link. I am a speech therapist who has worked in the medical setting for 15 plus years. My passion is working with those with communication disorders and making sure that their voice is heard.
My name is Samad Nakumbi. Had a stroke 6 years ago,
May.
May of 2018.
I am Taylor Nakumbi. I'm Samad's wife and caretaker.
Link.
We
What is a stroke?
Okay, so Samaj just asked me the question, what is a stroke? I do want to put a disclaimer. This information that we're sharing is just our own personal perspectives. This is not medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professionals if you do have medical questions or concerns. So from my perspective, being a speech therapist working in a rehab hospital forever, a stroke is a disruption to the blood flow in the brain. And there are two different types of strokes. There are ischemic strokes, where that is some sort of a blockage, whether a clot forms in the brain itself or from a different part of the body and travels up to the brain. And the way that I describe that is if you have a garden hose and you kink it and water can't get through, that's essentially what's happened in the brain. The blood flow, nutrition, and oxygen can't get through to certain parts of the brain because of the blockage. The other type of stroke is called a hemorrhagic stroke, and that is when a blood vessel in the brain bursts and there's bleeding in your brain tissue. And that is a much less common type stroke. Actually, a lot of people say I had a brain bleed and they're not aware that that is a type of stroke. That can happen from an aneurysm rupture, a significant fluctuation in blood pressure. There's a lot of different reasons, an injury to the blood vessel. But that is like if you have a garden hose and you slice it and water seeps out, that's what's going on in the brain. There's active bleeding in the brain. And the hemorrhagic stroke is much more dangerous and critical initially. People also don't know this, but a very small percentage of people can have strokes in their spinal cord as well, because brain and spinal cord are our central nervous system. But it is very rare. I don't know if you watch Southern Charm.
yes, Michael.
Yes, he had a spinal cord stroke. So just wanted to throw that out there. And Samad and Taylor, do you remember what type of stroke you had?
I don't remember.
Me too.
Do you remember what he had?
I think you had the hemorrhagic type stroke.
Yeah.
So the more uncommon one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
where if
It
you
bleeds.
slice
Yeah.
the hose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they had to do a craniectomy. Yeah. So Samad showing off a scar there. Where they, remove part of the skull because the swelling is so significant. And also, I think to evacuate some of the bleeding in the brain. Yeah.
So for him, they had to open it, like Nicole said. They stored a piece of his skull in his tummy for his stroke. His stroke was May of 18, and he got it replaced back in September of 18. So they stored it in his tummy. They told us that you couldn't lose it and it stays sterile, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And what was crazy about Samad's stroke is that he was actually in Ohio on a business trip when it happened. So he wasn't in the home of where we grew up, which is in Minnesota, and where we lived at the time. We were only dating. Um, I took the first plane ride down there, and I never left until I brought him back home with me. So we're not really sure what caused Samad's stroke. He had diabetes, and they did say that him being African American, and a little bit overweight, that caused part of it, but not exactly sure 100% what caused it.
And they do say that high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes are the top three medical risk factors for stroke. But yeah, sometimes they call them cryptogenic strokes, where they're like, we don't know why this happened. All of your lab work's coming back fine. We didn't find anything. But yeah, there's usually pieces to the puzzle, but sometimes they can't give you the full picture as to why this happened.
Yeah.
Which I think in Samad's case was really, well, I guess, then obviously any stroke is scary, but with Samad's was he obviously had diabetes, but for the most part ate really healthy, and still couldn't ever get his diabetes under control. And that was scary because he was doing everything that he was told to do, and it still wasn't able to stop him from having a stroke. So, yeah. Stay
And
tuned.
I think too, a lot of people consider stroke like an old person thing, and it's not.
Yeah.
70% of strokes are in that category of 65 and older, at least from what I'm aware of.
Yep.
But under the age of 65 is considered a young stroke. And the trajectory of young strokes, especially in our country over the past 5-10 years, I mean, it's skyrocketed.
Yep.
I think that's definitely a misconception about strokes because a lot of people are like, well, how old was your, at the time, boyfriend when he had a stroke? And I'm like, he was 26. He was really young. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's so young. And you don't hear it normally. Normally, it is older people that have strokes and die from them or, X, Y, and Z. So it is very shocking. But it's, when Honey was in rehab, there was a even younger person than he
Yep.
was in there too. So that's definitely a
Yep.
misconception that it's just an old person
Yeah.
thing.
2 days ago, um, a guy, um, what do you walk funny?
He asked you that?
Yes, and had a stroke. What?
Mm.
Young,
Mm-hmm.
young,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
it does happen,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
But I think that's part of the reason why we want to share our story and just get awareness out there so people are aware that it doesn't just happen to older people, that Samad was fairly healthy, and just to look for the signs of it as well.